Hey y'all, welcome back. Welcome to this new lesson. And I'm super excited to get into this topic with you, especially because it's one that not so long ago, well, 25 years ago, but really not so long ago, I would have said, no, it's ridiculous. It's a joke. Astrology? And here's what I thought about it. I thought, how could it possibly be that on this day, 1/12 of the population is going to get lucky in love and 1/12 of the population is going to be low energy? Well, of course I was right. That, what I knew of as astrology, was the sun sign astrology newspapers. That's, pretty, I won't say worthless, but pretty low level quality because it's overly simplistic. The amazing, super cool thing that I came to learn through synchronicity, through no conscious desire of my own, is that astrology is incredibly complex, right? If I were to turn the camera and point up here at the stars and the planets right now, what we would see is all kinds of planetary figures and all kinds of alignments. And as one of my astrology teachers said, there are 500 different points to look at in a chart. So what is a chart? It's a picture of the sky at the moment that someone was born. And that moment, that precise moment that they became an independent being, that moment has an energy to it, and the energy is well out-pictured or symbolized through the map. And I have been obsessed with learning about the self, right? The temple at the Oracle of the Greek Delphi says, know thyself. In yoga, it's called svadhyaya. And the one constant in all of life is ourself, so we do well to understand ourself. Are you with me? So, I learned about Myers-Briggs, I learned about the Big Five, I learned about all these different personality disorders, I studied psychology, a ton of it, and what I learned is all of that is useful. Anything that helps us to see ourselves more clearly is useful. What I love about astrology is of all of these systems, it's the only one that has the complexity that accounts for the complexity that we are, including and especially the parts of us that seem to contradict at times, that seem not to get along with each other. Astrology has a way of showing that. And one, it helps us to understand ourselves. Two, it helps us to understand events in the world and other people in our life. And three, it helps us to understand the cycles of life, right? Because there are always cycles happening, indicated in astrology and indicated in our experience. So what happened for me was I went through my life thinking astrology is junk, come on, no way. And then 1995, as some of you know, is an important year for me, and this was one of the precursors to the awakening. I started reading week after week the astrology column by Rob Bresney, and it was in the Daily Advocate, the Weekly Advocate, a newspaper in Northampton, Massachusetts. And on this page, it showed the concert listings. That's what I was interested in. On this page, it had the astrology column. I'm like, yeah, why not? I'll read that. Read a little bit about Cancer, about me. The thing was, week after week, like a whole bunch of weeks in a row, what it said had eerie correspondences with events in my life. Like, to the point that I thought, this is not coincidence. There's something going on here. And I was living in this community house at the time, and one of my roommates said, oh, you're finding, I have a friend that does astrology. And I said, oh yeah, tell me more. So I paid a professional, in actuality probably more amateur, $25 to give me a reading. And the way that astrologer worked, this is how I know it was an amateur, was she took my information and then she hand wrote a report, 25 pages, $1 a page, that went through all the different aspects of my chart and wrote a little blurb about each one. And this is, my friends, by the way, what you can get for free on the internet now. Plug in your birth data into the internet, and there's various ones like Cafe Astrology and Astro.com, and they will give you a report of similar type that says, well, if you have the sun in Cancer, that means this, and if you have Mercury in Aries, that means this. And let me state emphatically right now, astrology should never be boxing us in. It should never be limiting. It is not predictive. Astrology should never diminish our own awareness, responsibility, and power. It should always aid our understanding of our tendencies and the energetics and fuel us to have more choice in our lives. And I know a lot of times it's not used that way, so I'm giving you this as the framework for it now, especially considering all that follows as I share with you about how to utilize astrology to whatever degree you wish in your life. Now, what I got from her report, though, was there's this piece, and there's this piece, and there's this piece, and this piece, and some of them didn't seem to correspond to each other. Some of them seemed contradictory, and yet, as I went through the whole thing, it just made it clear for me there is definitely something to this art and science. And it was what sparked me to get obsessed with learning. And my learning was of three parts. It was one, reading, obviously. Two, getting readings from professional astrologers. And the more I did that, I learned about myself, which of course was fascinating. And then I learned about how the astrology works and was able to relate it to myself specifically. And then number three, I took classes and I hired a mentor and I had teachers. So in all that follows in this section, I'm going to give you lots of information about astrology and empower you to utilize it however you want. There's so much richness, and whether you actually want to go to the point where you're working with others just by looking at these archetypes, and that's the simplest start point I'll give you right now, is astrology is all about archetypes, about primal energies in life. And the more we understand those, the more we understand ourselves, the more we understand life, the richer is our life, and the more autonomy and power we have in working with our life. So, I hope that all makes sense. I hope it's useful. Enjoy the ride, and of course, as always, let me know what questions you have along the way, and let's make it richer, better, and serve you more all the way through. Thanks, y'all. See you soon.